Today's life force experiment was a single question put before YHWH. The question was this: when I wake up in the morning and say my first prayer, when I finish, I always feel exhausted. Is that the Bochim Continuum at work? 100 verses were drawn from the Urim Thummim version corpus of 34,211 verses under Shield 17.5 protocol, pre-registered, locked, and sealed before the entropy was pulled. The deterministic verdict came back yes, affirmative, at 99.9% probability, with strong anomaly classification, all gates passing. But before the numbers, let me tell you what the Bochim Continuum is, because the answer the Father gave is woven into its very definition. The Bochim Continuum is a dosimetric gradient of divine encounter effects on human biology. It takes its name from Judges chapter 2, verse 5, where the angel of YHWH ascended from Gilgal to Bochim and delivered a covenant indictment. When he finished speaking, the people lifted up their voice and wept. They called that place Bochim, weepers. The weeping was not metaphor. It was the physiological response to proximity to the divine presence, the lowest measurable dose on the continuum. The continuum rises from there. Moses, descending from Sinai, did not know his face shone. Daniel, beside the river Tigris, fell to the ground in a deep sleep with his face to the earth. Paul, on the Damascus road, was struck blind for 3 days by Christophanic light. On the Mount of Transfiguration, the very flesh of the Messiah became radiance. And at the upper terminus, the shroud of Turin, the body itself became the source of the radiation, and the cloth recorded it. 6 levels. 1 spectrum. Dosimetric. Real. So the question is not theoretical. You are asking whether the exhaustion you feel after your first morning prayer is a level 1 reading, a mild but measurable dose of proximity to YHWH, the same category as the weeping at Bochim. The lead verse pulled to the face of this drawer was number 7447. And Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of YHWH." Before Jericho falls, before any wall trembles, the priestly act is bearing. The Hebrew verb behind take up is nasa, to lift, to carry, to endure, to sustain. Priests do not merely speak before YHWH. They carry weight before YHWH. And the morning prayer of a covenant bearer is not conversation. It is procession. It is the lifting of the ark. The drawer confirmed this from multiple angles. In verse 15:6-4 the prophet says, "I brought it out in the twilight, and I carried it on my shoulder in their sight." Twilight, precisely the threshold hour you describe, the seam between night and morning when the bearer is summoned to lift his burden into visibility. In verse 25:271 Solomon declared that the temple was built to burn before YHWH sweet priestly incense, and for the whole burnt offerings morning and evening. Your morning prayer slots directly into this priestly rhythm. The exhaustion is not pathological. It is liturgical. It is the same fatigue that descended upon the Aaronic priests when their hands brought the burnt offerings of YHWH made by fire, verse 45:30. The Hebrew phrase tranquilizing aroma, reach nikoch, signals a transfer of intensity from the bearer into the smoke. Something leaves the priest when the offering rises. The covenant grief register fires across the drawer with unmistakable clarity. Verse 14977, "Now YHWH has attacked and done according as he has said, because you have violated covenant against YHWH and have not obeyed his voice." Verse 17729, "This is covenant wickedness." Verse 31533, "There is none covenant faithful, no, not one." Verse 13503, "When I called, was there none to answer?" These are the weeping notes. These are the Bochim notes. The continuum is not a single event but a standing condition of intercessory bearing in a covenant-violated world, and your morning prayer carries you straight into it. But the drawer does not leave you weeping. Watch the ark. After the covenant grief verses come the restoration verses. Verse 25:923, Hezekiah opened the doors of the temple of YHWH and repaired them. Verse 13:151, Hezekiah turned his face toward the altar and prayed. Verse 10:939, YHWH appeared to Solomon a second time after the temple work was finished. Verse 13:004, as birds flying, so does YHWH of hosts cover over Jerusalem, covering and delivering, passing over, and causing to escape. Verse 17:035. Be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in Elohim, because he has given you the former rain moderately. The former rain, the Ura, is the morning rain. The draw is giving you the morning back as a season of descended grace, not depletion. And then the closing verse, number 24:167, must be read as deliberate signature. This is Nehemiah 8, verse 10, spoken to the people immediately after they had wept hearing the Torah read aloud. The Levites and Nehemiah said, Go your way, eat the fat and drink the sweet, because this day is holy to the Lord. Neither be you sorry, because the joy of YHWH is your place of safety. That is the perfect Bochim Continuum closure verse. Yes, the exhaustion is real. Yes, the weeping is appropriate to what you are bearing. But this day is holy. The joy of YHWH is your fortress. Now the numbers. The Dominion Triad fired at 694.4% above baseline, at 4.61 sigma, identity, inheritance, and priesthood converging simultaneously. The guidance detection indicator registered as extreme anomaly with a combined p-value of 6.86 times 10 to the negative 7. The convergence confidence index crossed threshold at 90% with all 6 channels active. The polarity balance index sat at plus 2.56 in the affirmative quadrant. 35 direct textual hits surfaced across the draw, well above any plausible chance distribution from a 34,000 verse corpus. So to the question directly, yes. What you feel in the morning is the Bochim Continuum at work, and the Father has named it for you in this draw. You are not merely speaking words at dawn. You are taking up the ark before the 7-trumpet procession of your own day. The depletion you feel afterward is the priestly cost of intercession. The bearer wears down. That is not malfunction. That is the seam between covenant grief and covenant rest. The draw's closing word is the Father's instruction. Do not stay in the weeping. Eat the fat. Drink the sweet. Let the joy of YHWH become your fortress. The exhaustion is real. The continuum is real. And the joy is the appointed end of the continuum, not its denial.